Welcome to the Sacred Rest Workshop. Have you ever felt that you're so tired all the time and you have so much going on in your life, so much on your plate, and you just feel like you're on the edge of being burnt out? And I hope this is a wonderful workshop for your situation, especially learning 7 different ways to rest. In this book by Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith, she talks about 7 different ways to rest. And I hope that through this workshop, you'll be able to learn practical ways to learn new ideas how you can rest properly. In Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me of who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Jesus is inviting you to take a rest, and He will carry your weariness and burden. Let me ask you a question. What are some of the ways why you just can't rest? What are some of the reasons why you can't rest? Now, we live in a world, especially in Asia, or it's just in a world that we always want to perform, and productivity is definitely one of the key virtues that we all value. So sometimes we feel so guilty when we rest or when we not study hard, if we not work hard. We feel like, we are just being lazy. Or maybe you're a mom that you just your role of being a mother, that you have so much going on in your lives. You have to take care of children, and some of us have to homeschool our kids because of pandemic. They have to do online learning, and you just have to take care of their homework and the house chore. It's just so overwhelming. It's just no time to rest. And all these situations, it could be your work that you just requires so much of you that you almost can work 24/7. And after work, you still have to keep up with your emails and some of your projects and stuff. And no matter what, we have so many reasons why we can rest. But hopefully after today, you might change your perspective. And there might be ways that you can craft out times for proper rest. Why rest? Rest calls you to be still and seek to know God. And it calls you to look deeper at yourself and appreciate your surroundings. We cannot be and won't be able to enjoy the beauty of this world or be able to enjoy the abundance that God has given us if we don't pause and be still and to rest in His presence. In Psalm 46:10, it says, "Be still and know that I am God." Wow, we can't be still if we don't pause and rest. And there's no way we can see God when we're always in the busyness of life or our homework, assignment, work, or our daily lives. So rest is actually not unproductive. Instead, rest is the greatest investment to your overall enjoyment of life and productivity of work. And I cannot tell you how much I benefit from just how fruitful my life it is because of the resting practice that I personally practice. There's 7 different ways of rest in my life. And I would say because of my resting, I'll be able to fight and have energy to face whatever task that God has given me. So let's talk about some of the reasons, especially biblical reasons, why we should practice Sabbath and rest. This is a very common verse, and for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that in them, but He rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Do you know any scriptures that talks about rest? Let's think for a minute. Now, I want to give you 3 reasons why we should practice rest and Sabbath. Now, reason number 1, God set an example for us to pause and admire the creation. The verse that we just read just now, in the beginning, actually, in Genesis 1, He saw all that He had made, and behold, it was very good. You know, in one chapter, the chapter 1 in Genesis, this verse just keep coming in different, format, different version. But God, after He created everything that He has done, He actually paused and saw that everything was so good. So what was His response to His creation? Well, I kind of gave you the answer. He paused and he saw everything that he was done was very good. Now, let me ask you a question. How often do you we live in a very fast-paced world. We finish one project after another, one assignment after another, or we just keep up with the house chores and the children. And how often do we really take a moment to pause and ponder and just to be in awe and admire the work that we have done and achieved? And just to pause, or even just go to the nature and just admire, just take a break and to be reminded again to pause and enjoy life a little bit. Another verse, it says here, Genesis 2:2-3, by the seventh day God had finished the work he has been doing. So on the seventh day he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy. And because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. Now this verse it talks about, which is in chapter 2, God kind of showed us a great example. He intentionally rested on the seventh day. And the word rested, it just happened in these two verses, happened twice. So he intentionally taking a break. And let me ask you a question. Do you think God really need rest, honestly? Now, God being an amazing and powerful God, he doesn't really need to rest. He really made rest as an example for all of us to follow. And he made it a command for all of us to follow. Let's look at what does it mean by a Sabbath. What does that word actually means? It means to pause, to stop, to observe Sabbath, to rest from work, to finish, to stop, to disappear. So the word is actually to cease, to rest, and brought to an end. So anything that we do on the 6th day, this is the day that, on the 7th day, is the day that we all rest. So why should we do that? Because when we rest from work, we learn to live abundantly, to enjoy his creation and our surroundings. As I mentioned earlier, some of us, or actually most of us, are living in a very fast-paced world. When we do one thing after another, so much on our plate, we seldom have the time to pause and just to reflect and to enjoy his beauty. Now, no wonder all of us are feeling like zombie all the time, because we just lack of this discipline of resting, of trusting God on the 7th day, of be intentional to rest and follow God's example. So reason number 1, God has set an example for us to pause and admire the creation. Sometimes we don't rest. We just work every single day. Do we think we're even more powerful than God when we choose not to rest? So the application for us, we should follow God's example of rest, even when we think we don't need it. And God took the time to pause and admire his work. And so should we. We should be following the same example as God. So that's our reason number 1. God has set an example for us to pause and admire the creation. Second reason. The reason why we should practice Sabbath and rest is actually an act of worship. The day of Sabbath is a day of freedom. In Exodus 28-10, it says here, remember Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6th day you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it shall not do any work, neither you nor your son or your daughter, nor your male or female servant, for your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. Well, as we can see here, the Sabbath is only us keeping it the Sabbath, but also the people who work for us, possessions or animals, or if you have hired people who work for you, they should be stopped from working on the Sabbath as well. And it says here, Deuteronomy 5:12, observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy as the Lord your God has commanded you. So we know that this is a covenant and a command. This is the 4th commandment in the 10 commandments, as we all know, between God and Israel, the people of God. Now, you remember back in the days when the Israelites were being in slavery in Egypt, I suspect they didn't have any holidays or any rest day to rest from their slavery. And in the same way, to them, this day of the 7 day that they can have this day of rest is a day of freedom of the slavery. And for us, it's the same thing, but some of us are being in a slavery by the things of this world, right? The business of this world. And God wants us to have the same kind of freedom as well. So what does keeping it holy mean? Let's look at the original word. Does it mean by holy? Holy means sanctified, consecrated, holiness, dedicate, prepare, purify, and keep apart and set apart. So what does it mean by setting apart? Rest itself is actually a spiritual discipline and a command. It's a day that we, as people of God, we set apart from the world, that we dedicated this day for one thing that is so important, which is a day to dedicate to the Lord. The 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. We as people of God should practice Sabbath as a holy day to set apart, to focus on God and the spiritual things. A day of freedom from a slavery of this world and the work that we have to do for the 6 days in our lives. So reason number 3, to practice Sabbath is really an act of worship. It's a worship to God that we say to Him, on the 7th day, it's a day that is special and set apart just to focus on Him alone, on all the spiritual things. So that includes, we don't touch our work emails or any work projects or any assignments that you have to do. There's one day of the 6 days we should set apart. On the 7th day, one day we should set aside that we should be free from doing any work that is, that kind of slavery, I would say, kind of enslave us on the 6 days of the week. That also includes and applies to people who work for us. If you have helpers at home, you have workers who work for you, maybe don't send any work emails, or prepare on your work days, prepare your sermon or next message if you're in ministries, or anything you don't do to disturb other and yourself at the Sabbath that you should be keeping and also others should be keeping. So any work emails, I have learned in the past few years that I try not to send any work emails to anyone or do anything that is work related on that one day that I supposed to rest and focus my everything on God. Reason number 3, then in Mark chapter 2, 27 to 28, it says here, then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is the Lord of Sabbath, even of the Sabbath. Matthew 11:28, come to me of who you are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. The third reason is God creates rest for us. He created Sabbath for us, not the other way around. Now, I don't know about you, when we rest, it's really a faith journey. We trust that God will carry our burdens and the work that needs to be done. Now, sometimes we not only carry our burdens. In Matthew 11:28 says that we come to Jesus, we're weary and burdened. We also carry the burden of people in our lives. Could be our children, could be our family, could be our work. When Jesus said when we come to Him, we also give Him all the burden that we carry from someone else. And that is the day that He will give us rest and to refresh us so that we can recover. The original meaning, He will give us rest is to give us the time to recover and to refresh so that we can fight again the following weeks. I want to share with you my journey in the seminary. I still remember almost 10 years ago, I started my seminary journey. I started off I really study hard, honestly. I almost 16 hours a day, 12 to 16 hours a day I would study. And I still remember I would just sleep and then wake up, study, and then take maybe 15, 20 minutes lunch break, wash my dishes, and then quickly I resume my study. At nighttime, my dinner, same thing. And then I do this, I did it for 7 days a week. I did not practice Sabbath at all. And very quickly, 2 months after my first semester, I got into a depression. And I felt like the sense of being Elijah. I wanted to die. I told God I couldn't do this anymore. And I think that was the moment when God was telling me, you have been relying on your own strength to study. Now, I'm not sure about you. Maybe you're studying right now. You feel like you can almost study 24/7, still couldn't finish your work. Or you might be, your job is very demanding. Same may be applied to you, that you can work, and it's still not finish your projects, your assignments that, the boss gave it to you. Or maybe at home, you just feel like your children, the house chores is just never come to an end. But I just realized this episode in my life that God really spoke to me. I need to rely on Him for this journey. And after that, God gave me a schedule, a more balanced schedule to really practice what I'm going to share with you in this workshop. There's 7 different ways to rest, to invest in other areas of my life that I need resting. But I think the most important lesson God was teaching me was I have to rely on Him. When I rest, I trust that He will carry what needs to be done. It's a faith and a trust journey that, you know what, on this day I rest and I trust that God will take care of the business for me. And I just can't tell you how fruitful the experience afterwards, because of that episode in my life, I have learned to rest in a hard way. And ever since then, I really diligently practicing my rest. And I cannot tell you how fruitful my life is. I have way more energy and way more passion and way more enthusiasm to doing the things that God has called me to do, either being a mom or teaching or other ministry that God's called me to do. I just feel like every time when I rested, when I trust that, I practice my rest, I can have more energy and I have more enthusiasm to face my life. So what about you? I hope you will take this time just to pause for a minute. I would love for you to write down what is one thing that is most meaningful to you. What is one thing that I just discussed just now with you? What is one of the most meaningful biblical truth about rest to you? We just talked about God set an example for us to follow. Follow His example of taking rest. Second, rest is act of worship. It's a day of freedom for all of us. It's a day for us to worship Him, to focus on the spiritual thing. And last but not least, rest is really a faith and trust journey. That is that day we take the rest, that we believe God will take care of the things for us, that we are not relying on our own strength to do what He has called us to do. Let's have a minute of reflection. I hope this reflection will be a good reminder for all of us, the reason why we should take rest and Sabbath seriously. And in the next few videos, we'll be talking about 7 different ways to rest. And I hope that you'll find this workshop very fruitful to you. And I hope that it's my prayer that it will transform your life, especially how you should practice rest in your personal life. And I am sure, I'll guarantee you, you see a huge difference as to how you can see the abundance life that God has intended for all of us because of a practice of rest. See you.